to another episode of Gives and Takes. That's Sabrina Harding.
That's Ashley Tank.
And we are so excited to be kicking off 2025 with all of you.
We're so happy about it. Thank you for being here.
So happy. How is everybody doing? I think it's good in like this first week to do a little bit of like a mental check-in. I know for me personally, I'm using, we're recording on a Sunday. I'm using tomorrow, Monday, as like my true like first day of the year.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, I don't know, it was weird. Like going back to work for like 2 days, you know, like in the middle of the week. It was just like, it was kind of a weird transition after like being off of work for a while. And so I feel like this Monday is like truly the... let's get it going.
I feel like you can't get anything done. Like going back on a Thursday and then a Friday, because everyone knows that like the Friday mindset is like, all right, like weekend. So
exactly.
Thursday, Friday is just kind of bananas to go back to work. Especially like after New Year's.
Yeah.
It's just not it.
Yeah. And a lot of people too, like with what I do, like a lot of people were still traveling, whether that was like our clients or our candidates, like people were still on their vacation. So it was kind of hard to even still get a hold of people or really push anything forward one way or another. So I'm ready to rock and roll tomorrow, though. Hope everybody else is too, and that this year is off to a good start.
We just spent the past hour doing our vision board. I don't know about any of you, but you're probably in our same boat since you're here with us. But we do a lot of like spiritual practices, and we have our vision boards, and we are going to be having some amazing things to be manifested in 2025. I'm seriously so excited. Like we were just in the whole vibe, the whole feel right before this, manifesting just incredible things. And I would love to share a little practice with all of you guys. It's called a live list, and it's something that I've been doing for the past 4 years. And it is basically where you write out things in your life for the next year that you want to happen and you want to just experience. So it's exactly what it is, a live list. And writing out things that are like bound to happen, like very easy. Like for my go-to example for this is like go on a picnic. You know, it takes a little bit of effort, but it's not like mind-blowing, right? The next step is to manifest or write down like medium things. Like, I don't know, like buying a new car. That would be kind of crazy, right?
Yeah.
Like, that would be a big move. So just things like that, like medium, very doable, but are going to stretch you a little bit. And then the last step is to write down mind-blowing, what the fuck moment things that are like, how did this happen? How did I land this experience and this manifestation? And the more that you check off the small things, your mind literally starts to believe, oh, I'm going to also check off the big things. So this for me happened last year, I think. I won a raffle for a Costa Rica trip.
Yeah.
Like a $5,000 honeymoon trip that James and I won. We spent $100, 5 tickets, and there was 800 tickets in there. And our name got pulled. Like, because I had written down on my live list, win a trip. And I left the rest up to God and to the universe. And yeah, like that's like something mind-blowing that I would have never, you know, the mind in me would have never expected to happen. But oh my God. So do a live list, you guys. We have one of our own for our podcast. Yeah.
And it was so fun to do one. I think in different ways, like I've practiced a live list, like just like writing down goals, like in the professional sense. I know I've done like SMART goals, which are, I always forget what each of the letters stand for, but it's like measurable, achievable, you know, and it has to be like short term, but also, like you do one for the next 3 months, you do one for 6 months, and then 9 months. And so I think in different ways, a lot of people have probably done like some variation of this. Yeah. But I think calling it a live list gives it a different, it makes it feel less like this is like a goal. And I think for me personally, like when I write down like goals for myself, it almost feels a little bit more like I'm like under the gun, right? Yeah. Like it almost feels like a little bit more like if I don't achieve these, like I've failed. Because if you don't reach your goals, like that's, you almost feel like it's like a failure. Whereas like a live list is just, hey, here are some things in my lived experience that I want to experience.
Yeah.
And I'm sending out into the universe so that I can experience them.
Yeah.
If they happen or if they don't, I'm gonna love all the ones that do happen.
Yeah.
Versus like, oh, if I don't get every single one of these, I'm gonna be upset.
Right.
And so I love calling it like a live list because it's a check them off as the universe presents them to you versus like a checklist of like, you better do these, and if you don't, like, feel bad about yourself. So it was super fun to do one for a podcast.
Yes.
We actually checked off one today. Very exciting news, everyone. We will have 2 microphones. Woo!
Everyone's cheering right now.
Everyone is cheering right now. Some of you are just like whipping off your tops and spinning it around.
Yay!
I know, I wanted to. We have finally this is a big moment.
Yeah.
I think this is a big moment. We've talked about it for a while. We did our research. We did our due diligence to find like the right setup for us. That's going to be user friendly, maybe for people that aren't extremely tech savvy. And so we're just elevating. And so that was so awesome to write that down and check that off.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. There's something else too that I had on my mind to bring up too, since we're talking about the new year, we're talking about visions and goals and manifestations and all of those things. I like to choose a word for the year, and we haven't picked one for the podcast yet, so maybe we can bounce ideas off after this. But I always have a word that I want to refer to, and I don't like saying try, because that just makes it feel like you're not doing it. I go out of my way every single day to make sure that this word happens, because life is happening right now. And we don't want to say, oh, I'll feel abundant when I have the XYZ. You know, like abundance is happening right now and life is happening right now. And whatever word you choose, for me, it's alignment. So I want to feel aligned every single day, even if that's for 1 minute a day. But I'm going to go out of my way and pick a little pocket and feel aligned, and then maybe that'll inspire me to feel more aligned later throughout the day. But that's my word this year, and I'm really excited about it. I feel like Ashley and I were talking a little bit before. Last year has just been kind of like going through the motions a little bit. Yeah. Like we both really resonated with and like connected on that. And for me, alignment feels so aligning. Yeah. And we'll have to pick one for the pod. But what do you think your word is for the year, your personal one?
That's a great question. Yeah. This past year, honestly, it just kind of felt like, you know what it felt like was like the universe, like I could feel that things were happening. Like I could feel that there were changes like coming about, but I just wasn't like experiencing that. Like I could feel that it was in a state of like, oh, things are changing. I did get a new job. And, there is just kind of a lot of like moving parts. And so nothing I feel like really felt settled in enough for me to like actually be able to reflect on it, if that makes sense. I feel like so many things have just like been in motion that I haven't gotten like that resounding feeling of just like sitting back, taking a moment to reflect on all of the things that have changed or how I feel about all these things. Yeah. And so I think maybe my word for the year, maybe like connection. Yeah. Maybe feeling like connected. Yeah. Like feeling, whether that's like grounding or whether that's like, so that's kind of where I'm struggling is like, do I want it to be like, I want to feel grounded? Because I do overall feel like I've been very grounded this past year. But I also feel like I've just kind of been in a state of like not connecting everything that's happening in my life and feeling that. Yeah. So what do you think about the word like connection?
For you.
Yeah.
I love that.
Okay.
It pieces it together. It's also, to me, when I think about connection, it's not only like within yourself, but it's also like community a little bit. Like connection with people and your loved ones, and it feels very like well-rounded. Yeah. It feels great. Yeah, and even now that I'm thinking about it too, connection like within work, right? Like creating connections in like the professional sense, the networking professional as in like our podcast as well, like meeting people in community. Yeah. So I think connection's my word. I love it.
Being connected and just tying all the dots together.
Yes, I love it.
Yay.
We just pulled a tarot card before this, and our word was growth. What do you think about that for being our podcast word?
I'm obsessed with it because also as we were reading the description of growth, it was just like everything that you and I have either telepathically or literally been saying to each other about like what we want out of this, and a lot of them were good reminders, right? It's not one of the things that it said was stop trying to force things, to happen and just trust that they are. Like, trust that they will happen. And I think that's been, like, a big thing for you and I is, well, we've only got, like, 20 followers or this or that. And we usually don't, like, get too down on those things. But they're, like, realistic statistics or facts that we just, like, talk about. And I think just having that little bit of a reminder of, okay, we do have 20 people that are listening. That easily is going to be 500 or 1,000 in the next year. Like, it will be, and we just have to have trust in that.
Yes.
So I think it was just, like, a beautiful reminder, especially after making our vision board, after making our live list.
Yes.
It's all just very, very freaking exciting. Yeah. Honestly, I feel like 2025, it's just like it's a great year.
Yes, it's our year.
It's a great year.
It's your year. It's our year. Everyone's year.
It's everyone's year.
Yeah.
And you know what I've actually found kind of interesting too is I feel like odd numbers for me, and just getting a little bit into the numerology, which will actually maybe get into kind of our topic here today. Yeah. But numerology, numbers wise, what I'm trying to say is every odd year actually, like, knee-jerk reaction, I want to say that, like, even number years have been, like, better years for me. But if I'm actually being honest, it's always been odd.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like when I think, like, what I want is that, like, an even number. I don't know why, but I feel like my center of gravity, wants to believe that, like, even numbers have been better. But when I actually think about my life, like, odd numbers have always kind of been a little bit better. And I don't know, that's just kind of a funny, interesting synchronicity. I'm so excited for 2025. Yeah. I'm excited to move through fear. Like, that's another thing too I'm, like, really excited for is, like, to stop being hesitant of roadblocks and, like, creating a lot of, like, excuses.
Right.
Like, this, for me, one thing that I'm, like, manifesting this year is to, like, move through fear. Like, to get on the other side of fear.
Love it.
And to stop, like, making excuses. Instead of saying things like, oh, like, I've just been, like, so tired, like, I'm not able to, like, go, to the gym and think, because, like, maybe of, like, fear, I want to start saying things to myself, like, well, what's the best thing that'll happen from me going to the gym? Or, like, what's the worst, like, even trying to, like, challenge fear and say, what's the worst thing that's going to happen if I go to the gym?
Totally.
Like, what's the worst thing that's gonna happen? Oh, like, I get a great workout and I get some endorphins, and, like, I, instead of, like, living through anxiety or, like, letting it kind of, like, control what you do and making excuses, it's challenging that and saying, well, what is actually the worst thing that's gonna happen?
Yep.
I could come up with a bunch of assumptions and make up a bunch of nonsense in my head, or I could look at the reality of the situation and say, oh, well, I'm being kind of silly. Because I feel like when you challenge fear, you start to realize, like, a lot of the things that you're cooking up in your own head, it's a bunch of bullshit.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fear. So the thing about fear is that our dreams don't reside inside of our own comfort zone. Like, think about one huge dream that you have. It does not reside in your little bubble of being comfortable. Like, fear and uncomfortability is going to stretch you in ways that, your comfort zone could never. So I think that's a really good reminder. I wanted to hop back to when you said, like, our 20 listeners, and Ashley and I just talked about this too. But we're like, what if those 20 people were literally in the room with us? I'd be scared shitless, first of all.
Who are all you people?
What do you want?
Yeah.
It would feel like a lot of people in a room. Like, it would feel... so... Again, we're saying 20 people, but also, like, that's a large amount of people. That's 20 human beings, 20 human lives that we are talking to right now, if not more later on. That's the thing about podcasts, is that our voices are going to travel on and on and on and on. and this could be, you might be listening to this in 2035.
Right.
That would be weird, but also pretty cool.
Very cool, yeah.
It's very retro of you to do that.
Very retro. But it's like the ripple effect, right? And I think that like in society we've gotten so desensitized to or like the weight of numbers of like an audience is becoming lost upon us.
Yeah.
Like when you think of an Instagram post and you think about like 135 people liking a post, some people might go, oh my God, that's like nobody. But that's 135 people.
That's a lot.
Or even 35. Like I feel like we don't understand like the gravity of that. If you were to think, and one of our goals for like this next year is to get 500 followers on Spotify, and hopefully double that on TikTok, or 500 plus, right? Like is like our goal. If you think about 500 people in a space, like in a venue, that's like selling out some small music venues. I mean, that's so many people.
Right.
And then, I mean, you think of that like compounding. You think of people on TikTok or, Instagram, whatever, and they have like 1 million followers. That's multiple arenas.
Yes.
Of people. And so I feel like we kind of get like lost on the gravity of these numbers. And so I'm rocking with the 20 of y'all, and we're rocking with the 20 of y'all because you wouldn't even fit in our studio. So like, I mean, we'd make room and we would make space for you for sure. But it's like, that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
And we're grateful for each and every one of you. And if even just the 20 of you tell 3 people, my goodness, 60 people.
My goodness.
Immediately.
Yeah.
And then just compounds. And yeah, I think one thing too, to just kind of as a reminder, like the reason that we do this podcast, there are a lot of reasons. I think the top ones for Sabrina and I is like connection, like with one another. And also, I think we reside on the same frequency, on the same vibe. And so we want to be able to share that, and kind of like collectively vibe with other people that meet us at the same vibration, or we want to elevate people up to the same vibration.
Yeah.
Because not to toot our own horns, but it's fucking great from up here. Like
it's so great.
It's
is
a great vibe up here, and we want to like elevate other individuals, and we also want to have people have the ripple effects of this higher vibration in your individual lives, and like see the ways in which that'll really just bring you to the next level as well. So we just want to be 2 cool girls in your corner talking about some crazy, wild things, and just create community and raise abundance and love. So that's what we're here for. So share it with other people that would fuck with that, because I think it's a lot of people, and it'll take the village, I think, to get there.
Oh.
That's our PSA of the day.
Thank you for tuning in.
And now we've got a crazy episode for you.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell them what it's about?
Well, we should have worn our tinfoil hats because we are going to be tinfoil hat girlies through and through, because we're talking about conspiracy theories, baby.
Woo!
And honestly, I wanted to chat with you about this. I don't know if we'll have to take this out, probably not. But I'm at the point in my life where, like, if you don't think about a conspiracy, like, it's kind of strange.
Yeah.
You can't trust everything that we're seeing online. So at this point, you have to open your mind to there being more than one explanation to X, Y, and Z.
100%.
We have to understand that there are probably things happening behind the scenes. Strings are being pulled, like definitely different things are happening. And I love conspiracies, honestly. I am a conspiracist. So here we go. Do you want to start?
How about you start?
Okay, I'll start.
Because I'm going to debate on which one I'm going to start with. Like, do I want to blow everyone's fucking minds first? Or... So let me think about it a little bit. Yeah. But I'm excited to hear yours.
Okay, cool. So the first one that I have, and you all probably have heard about this, and you guys have probably made fun of people who have believed this, okay? But all we're asking for is for you to open your mind and for you to just be along for the journey. And you don't have to believe what we're saying. That's the beauty. You have your own opinion. We have ours. But we're going to chat about like if it makes logistical sense or if there's no way. So get ready, buckle up. One is the moon landing was faked.
Yes.
Okay, so we're kicking it off with a classic. Everyone's heard of it. The 1969 moon landing. And here's the claim, was that NASA faked it to win the space race against the Soviet Union. And here's what fuels the theory. So here's what people are saying about it. First of all, the flag in the footage, it's waving. You know what I mean? I don't know about you guys, but I haven't been in space, but I've heard that it's a vacuum and there's no wind up there, you guys. It's not like there's not a forecast of a windy day up in space. It is a vacuum. So in the iconic footage, the American flag appears to wave, but there's no atmosphere on the moon. So how? NASA explains it from the motion of the flagpole, but critics say it's just more proof of a staged set. So that's the thing, is that people think that it was a whole set in Hollywood that they filmed, which I don't know about you, but I kind of believe it.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and then this one is the Van Allen radiation belt. Have you heard of this? I had to look it up.
I think I have heard of this, but give us a reminder.
Okay. So to reach the moon, astronauts had to pass through this belt of high radiation, and skeptics argue that the technology of the 1960s could not have adequately protected them, making the trip impossible. NASA counters that they passed through really quickly and limiting exposure, but not everyone is convinced on that theory. And then another one is that in the photos and in the video, there are no stars in the background. So why is the sky in all of the photos pitch black with no stars visible? NASA claims the camera exposure settings were adjusted for the moon's bright surface, but for some, this just adds to the suspicion. And so people are believing that they faked the moon landing, that it was a Hollywood set. Just based off of the facts, what are your thoughts?
Okay. I fucking love this one. Like this is such a good. I think this is when I heard of this. I think for the first time I was in college, like this conspiracy, and I think it was the first time that I felt like my neural pathways open up a little bit, just to even challenge such a widely accepted belief, right? Like just to challenge that. I think it just like opened up the ways in which my brain could potentially be more skeptical or inquisitive of other things. So that's just first and foremost. I love this one.
Yeah.
I think that there is a lot of evidence that points to the fact that we never did. Now, I'm going to kind of go back and forth. I'm going to kind of play the devil's advocate here, and then I'm first going to start with like my opinions or the things that I've heard, or the reasons that I think that it's a bunch of BS. So absolutely number one, the flag. The equipment that it took to like get there and like burning up in like the atmosphere. The fact that we've never done it again, I think is another weird. Crazy thing. What do you mean in the 60s? Like we did it, but we've never been able to do it ever again. We've never been able to replicate it with how much the advancements are like in technology today.
Oh my gosh.
And my number one favorite kind of point to make in this argument is that what the hell do you mean that in the 60s we were able to broadcast from the fucking moon to the United States of America? And now the other side of that is that because we remember Nixon made a call to the guys on the moon.
Oh yeah.
And so, okay, you're telling me that he made a phone call to space? I mean, are you kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? Do you know, like, how difficult it was to, like, put satellites into outer, you know.
At that time,
and to be, well, and even now, being able to, like, communicate back and forth, like, in our orbit is really difficult. So, those are the things where I'm just like, what do you mean? Like, how is that even possible? We've never done it again. Now, on the other side of that, with the broadcasting and with the radio transmission, so NASA and other places say that the communication back and forth, there was a lag. It was not like immediate. And what we were seeing on TV was basically the combination of the two things. Like the video recording was like pre-recorded. It definitely was. And then it was like sent back and shown. It wasn't like live. I think is like the stance that they've taken. The footage wasn't.
Okay.
Like we weren't getting the footage live.
Okay.
I think that's what they've said, but I think some people still think that they saw it live because I have people in my family that are like, no, I sat in front of my TV and I watched them walking on the moon, right? Like people have this very vivid memory. So all of that is to say they're saying that it wasn't pre-recorded and that it was a radio transmission back and forth and that radio actually travels very, very quickly. Like radio waves travel very quickly, so that actually could be possible to transmit. But I think that all just sounds like a bunch of hoopla because we've never done it again. And that was what, Apollo 11, I think, that did it, supposedly. I forget which. So that means that there were 10 before that didn't do it, and then there were like 4 after that weren't able to do it again. And so, or however many, and there have been some since, but we've never gone to the moon. We've never landed back on the moon again.
Yeah.
Some people say that that's because we don't have the funding for it anymore, but I can't imagine that we had more funding then. I can't imagine that our technology now wouldn't be better with people like Elon Musk or whatever, and they're trying to like inhabit the moon. Right. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think that it's true. I do think that one of the things, an even deeper conspiracy theory on it about, okay, if we were in this space race with Russia, and they even had the smallest inkling that we had made that in a Hollywood studio, why didn't they say anything about it? Because if we were spending individually billions of dollars, Russia and the United States, we both wanted to go to the moon so badly.
Yeah.
If they even had a slight inclination that we had not done it, why haven't they used that against us, or have they?
Ooh, dun dun dun.
Right? Like, think about all of the ways in which Russia and all these things have kind of been like coming into frame in the public sense and over the last like 10 years with infiltrating Facebook during elections or his relationship with Trump and all these things. I wonder, is that blackmail? Do they know that we faked this and they've been using it against us and plan to for the foreseeable future? Who knows? Who knows?
We won't know.
We'll never know. But anyways, I think it's interesting. What are your thoughts?
I think that the space race was a very real thing. I think that they attempted to go to the moon, and I think that America decided, well, it can't be done on the budget that we have, so let's just make a Hollywood basically like background so that we can fake it. But again, we won't know unless it is confirmed or there's like evidence. I have seen that there have been like whistleblowers who have come out and said like we never went to the moon, but I think that they were like very quickly quieted and hushed. So yeah, I think that I'll believe it if I see evidence that is irrefutable. Is that a word?
Irrefutable?
Irrefutable. There it is. Yeah, I think that it was faked.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love the moon.
I love kicking off with that.
I do too. That's such a good one.
Here you go.
Okay, y'all. We're going to take a little bit of a left turn here. And we're going to go into a little bit more of like the fantastical. We're going to go a little bit into some fantasy here.
Love it.
Personally, I love any kind of mythology, and like mystical creatures and like the idea of them. So I decided to chat about dragons. And did they ever exist?
What?
I
didn't even think that was an option.
Yeah. So here's a couple of things. Dragons, so this is from an unpopular opinion subreddit, and it says dragons existed.
Okay.
Not sure how they went extinct, but quite sure that they existed. How do so many old cultures have a similar depicted large serpent that breathed fire? Why are all the animals on the Chinese calendar regular animals except for the dragon? The Bible talks of a creature that has skin that spears can't pierce, tails as large as cedar, and light fire that comes from the nostrils. Could some of our, in quotes, dinosaur bones be bones of dragons that resembled a dinosaur, a very large reptile? I believe that dragons have been wiped out from our modern history for some reason. How else would they be in folklore from all around the world, from different time periods and cultures that would have never interacted with each other, that didn't exchange stories? Were they at some point slain, like in tales of knights slaying dragons? Were they hunted because they were too dangerous and powerful for humans? Were they hunted to gain a legendary status like in Avatar, The Last Airbender? If you also believe they existed, how do you think they went extinct?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So here are like a couple of like my initial thoughts about it. So from what we know about like archaeological digs on dinosaurs, it's actually still very, very light. I mean, like, we have the bones of these animals, but we don't know like how their respiratory systems functions. We don't know how, like, they're outside of their skeletal. We have no idea what these animals like actually looked like, or how.
I'm pulling up a picture for you. Keep going on.
Yeah,
this. Yeah.
Or how they behaved. Like, just because we found certain bones near one another doesn't mean maybe that they didn't have wings, right? Because wings are more of like cartilage, which actually over time would behave a little bit more like skin, right? And sure, they had like certain parts that were like bones and things like that, but wings also could have like been blown off like very far from where the rest of the body was found. And so a lot of these really large dinosaurs that we have bones for in some of these museums, they do have like the skeletal composition of something that looks like a dragon.
Yes.
Like the Natural Museum of Arts, or I think I'm saying that right. The Night at the Museum in New York.
Yeah.
Like the Museum of Natural History. There we go.
Yes.
Has that huge dinosaur in it, right? Literally imagine that, but just with wings. And that is a fucking dinosaur.
Wow.
All right, that is a dragon, right?
Yeah.
That is a fucking dragon. I think that it's entirely possible. I think the biggest thing for me with this theory is that they have existed in, and I was looking this up, I want to say it was like over 100 different cultures from different time periods. So we're talking like, 700 BC to like 900 BC, like we're talking huge chunks of time from pockets all over the world that have used them like in their flags, they're like drawn into their castles. They're just remarked over and over and over by civilizations that would have never interacted and were completely wiped out before any ancestors would have ever mingled.
Yeah.
So how the hell did all of these people come up with the concept of dragons?
I love it.
What are your thoughts on dragons?
Oh my gosh, because wings are cartilage.
Yeah.
Because those would erode.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
or decompose.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't be able to find those. And so I have a picture right here. I'll show you. So basically, the top one says how the animal skeleton looks, and it's like it looks like a very scary skeleton. Like it could be a dinosaur. And then next to it says how scientists would recreate the animal. There's no like fat on it, essentially. I don't know how else to say it. It's just skin over that bone. It looks like a very terrifying animal. And then the actual animal that skeleton belongs to is a fluffy bunny.
Yeah.
So we don't know how the actual animal was constructed.
Like looked, right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We don't know if it had feathers or fur or
wings.
Yes, I love the thought of there being dragons.
Me too.
I absolutely love it. But my counter argument with that would be pterodactyls. Mm-hmm. They know that they fly, or that they flew at one point, but I guess that's because their wings had a bone structure. Mm-hmm. So dragons could have had a different structure.
Absolutely.
Or the pterodactyls did breathe fire. We don't know. Mm-hmm. We don't know for sure. We weren't there. So we'll post that picture on our Instagram too, the one that we were just talking about. But I love the idea that they were dragons, and I think that, like you were saying, the folklore of every single culture having a dragon in their stories. I don't think it's coincidence.
No.
I think that we need to look at the facts. And storytelling is exactly how legends have been passed on and how we know about other things. It's how we know about like Greek mythology is kind of different, but how we know about
Jesus.
Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus.
It's how we know about everything has been a story.
Yes.
Everything has been a story.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so stories are so ancestral to us. I feel like this is, for some reason, this is the one piece that we're like, oh, that couldn't happen. No. I'll believe in everything else, but no, not flying dragons. I'm 100% on board. I haven't really thought about this before today, but I love the thought of it.
Yeah.
I'm here for it. Yeah.
I love it. And one more thing real quick too about like the concept of dragons is that we have literal dragons. Like there is the Komodo dragon. There is also the word dragon was similar across all these different civilizations. How did they all come up with like this same word for a beast that was the exact, it doesn't make sense. And I for sure think that they existed, but I think the question in this that it was asking was, how do you think that they went extinct, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah.
I think 100% it was like Game of Thrones. Hello? Has anybody ever seen Game of Thrones?
So sad.
The way that humans built these big machines, like these big crossbows, essentially, to take them out. They created poisons and things like that to take them out because they were so powerful.
Yeah.
If the world was run with dragons,
I just got the chills. That's amazing.
like people would either cease to exist or they would be controlled by people that could control dragons. And so they wanted it to be mano a mano, I think, and I think that they just found ways to kill all of the dragons.
I agree with that theory. I forgot to say that, but my initial thought was humans had to have done that. There's no way that that there was a meteor like the dinosaurs.
Right.
It was definitely humans, I believe. Yeah.
And my very last thing on this is that the dinosaur remains, which I think are dragons, were like thousands and thousands, potentially millions of years closer to the top of the surface than other dinosaurs that had similar compositions to them. So when we think of dinosaurs existing 25 million years ago, those fossils are much further down in the soil versus some of these huge collections that we find at like the Museum of Natural History.
Yeah.
Those were geologically much closer to the surface.
Whoa.
So and we know geology, that's time. And so they were more recent potentially than 25 million.
That's so exciting.
I know. I believe in dragons.
Yeah.
I feel like I would have been a Targaryen for sure.
Yeah.
And a parcel tongue in Harry Potter.
Talking
to all the reptiles.
I love that. A woman of
I
many
love
talents.
it. Yeah, I love it.
Okay. So this next one, also taking another left turn. I think we've taken a few here. But this next one is the Titanic wasn't the Titanic. Have you heard this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this theory combines history and scandal. So the Titanic actually wasn't the Titanic. Instead, it was swapped with its damaged sister ship, the Olympic, in an elaborate insurance scam. So the Olympic, which was the ship, had been in a costly accident that was no longer profitable. The theory goes that White Star Line disguised the Olympic as the Titanic, sent it on the infamous voyage, and intentionally sank it to collect the insurance money. So there's been some suspicious moves that have happened to also help with this theory. JP Morgan, one of the ship's financiers, canceled his trip at the last minute, fueling rumors that he knew that the disaster was coming. And then we also had some evidence from the actual shipwreck itself. Some parts of the wreck show unusual wear and construction detail that match the Olympic more than the Titanic. Survivors even reported strange inconsistencies in the ship's layout and fixtures. So do you think that the Titanic was the Titanic, or do you think that it was the sister ship, the Olympic?
There are so many cross conspiracies that this could be. And I feel like I've heard like all of them. One of them being that like time travelers went back in time and chose to do the other one to essentially sink certain people that were going to mess with the Federal Reserve and things like that. But what I believe is I do think that it was swapped. So what we'll do too on our Instagram is we'll post the pictures of was it the Olympic? Mm-hmm. The Olympic and the Titanic, and they are identical. I mean, they truly are identical. The prominent people, I think this is like very noteworthy, like the prominent people that ended up going onto the Titanic were the people that were going to try to halt the progress of the Federal Reserve in the United States of America, which, of course, if anybody has ever had a bank account, you all know who JP Morgan and Chase, baby. You know what that became. You know that he founded the Federal Reserve. And so the fact that he was supposed to be on it and wasn't, and yet all of the people that were coming over to America to essentially litigate against it and petition against the Federal Reserve, they all died on the Titanic.
Yeah.
Or the Olympic. So I 100% think that that's a possibility. Mm-hmm. I think that it's true. I think that there are a lot of things about the sinking of that ship that just don't like sit right to the point where could it have been an organized thing? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What do you think?
It's hard because I've cried over that movie so many times.
Same.
R.I.P. Jack.
Mm-hmm. Move over, bitch.
Move the fuck over. That door is big for two.
I know.
Big enough for the both of us.
It was.
Oh my gosh. So, Jack and Rose, you guys stole my heart. But I think that this theory has a lot of backing. I do believe that this theory is a potential reality. I think that people will do scandalous things for money. And yeah, I think that like greed and power definitely had a lot of play in here, and it honestly makes more sense than it being an accident, because if there were icebergs that they were totally like well known for navigating, I've never heard of another shipwreck like this.
No.
Like I don't know off the top of my dome, I'm sure that there are, but not to the size, not to the huge tragedy that this one was. So yeah, I sadly think that it was planned. Yeah.
And it was so televised. This was like the biggest expedition in modern day travel across the Atlantic in the history of humankind. And so it was advertised as such, and just it was like the biggest deal of like the last like 2 centuries. I mean, this was like the biggest since we gained independence as a country in the United States. Like this was like the biggest deal. And for there to have been some like shortcomings and like lack of foresight, like on the navigation of the icebergs, on the transmission, being able to get, because there were 2 other boats nearby when the Titanic got hit, and for some reason, like the radio just like was not working for the boat that was closer. There was a boat very close that would have taken maybe an hour or something like this. I don't know all the details, but it would have taken, let's say, maybe an hour or 2 hours to get there, and probably would have saved like a very good amount of people. And instead, that boat, apparently, I think something like the captain was asleep, and so whomever, it was like 4 steps of that other boat that just was like misfail. Like this guy was supposed to have heard it, the captain was supposed to have heard it. Nobody heard the radio transmission, right? Until hours and hours later, after the second boat that was like 20 miles away got the message.
Dang.
And they went and got there, I think, 5 hours after the whole ordeal.
Oh, shoot.
And then the original boat, then they got the message. I think there are a lot of, like, weird synchronicities in it that, like, that's a lot of shit to go wrong.
Yeah.
That's a lot of fucking shit that should have hit.
Yeah.
That should have, like, been able to somehow correct itself that just didn't. That I find a little, like, too many coincidences.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. It's a little too fishy for me. Yeah. Do you have another one?
I do.
Okay.
Okay, this one's really crazy, y'all. So buckle up. Honestly, I was like watching the History Channel earlier today as I was searching for something to discuss, like another conspiracy theory. And sometimes, I was talking to you about this a little bit earlier, but sometimes when I get sucked into a rabbit hole, like when I go down a rabbit hole of some of these very, they're like so high level that they also feel like they're like aligning with it resonates so deeply with me where I'm like, this has to be like what happened because what the hell else was it? But then there's also this like overarching, well, it's just such a mystery that we're never going to know, that it's just kind of this really weird space to exist in. So now I'm going to do that to all of you.
Woo! Right.
So what I decided to chat about was the pyramids. The pyramids in the world.
Oh my gosh.
Being correlated to extraterrestrial intervention.
We're going there.
We're going there. It's happening. We have arrived.
We come in peace.
Okay. So the pyramids. I need to open it. Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
So the pyramids of Giza in Egypt, as everybody knows, a lot of people think that those are like the only pyramids like that exist. However, there are hundreds of thousands of pyramids across the world. And they all range in size. But the couple of things that are always going to maintain the same are that they have their 4 points. They have, of course, like the top. But what's really interesting, I think, about pyramids is that from across 5 different continents, the starking similarities between the complete construction and design of pyramids in some places, like the Mayan pyramids of Mexico, resembling something almost identical over in an Asian country or over in Peru. Like this starking resemblance, I think it leaves you to wonder how did the architects or the civilizations in these two countries that would have never ever interacted with one another, how were they building the exact same pyramids?
Yeah, right.
Or things that resemble each other very much.
Doesn't add up.
It doesn't add up. Another thing that we know about pyramids is that oftentimes pyramids were created to embalm or kind of house the tombs of their like noble leaders, right? However, in majority of the pyramids across the world, we've never found bodies.
I didn't know that.
We've never found bodies, and so it's widely accepted, apparently, like in the scientific community, that there was just a widespread, world-spread phenomena of gold or of grave digging, and that in every culture across 5 continents and hundreds of thousands of pyramids, people just saw pyramids one day and just went in and robbed them all of all the bodies and all of of all the things. That's wild to me.
Yeah.
I think that's wild to me. And then I've got some just really interesting facts specifically about Giza and some other ones. So if you were to take the exact location and coordinate of the pyramids of Giza, so if you were to take the exact coordinates of it, they specifically the latitude of the Great Pyramid of Giza, they are often cited as being very close to the numerical value of the speed of light, which is expressed in meters per second.
Oh my gosh.
So The latitude of the Great Pyramid of Giza is roughly 29.9792458 degrees north, which is numerically similar to the speed of light in meters per second, which is 299,792,458 meters per second.
What?
How the hell, you guys?
How?
I mean, it's dead on. So those numbers, if you want to pause, whatever, they're the exact same numbers.
Oh, that's wild.
Which I just find to be extraordinary. Another thing is that a lot of individuals, or a lot of the civilizations wrote in their texts or on the walls or things like that, they wrote of gods coming down to them and teaching them and giving them instructions on how to create the pyramids. Mm-hmm. And again, that's across various different civilizations, hundreds, sometimes thousands of years apart from one another.
Right.
All writing about similar experiences with the gods giving them instructions on how to create these pyramids, okay? Another, commonly known thing about pyramids is that in the tomb or in the burial, the reason being for them doing that for the noble, either the pharaohs or, these high lords or whatever of these different civilizations, was so that these pyramids would open dimensions so that the soul could return to an afterlife. This was widely believed across, again, different civilizations. We're talking the Mayans, maybe not the Incas, but we're talking about the Egyptians. We're talking about the Bosnian, what is it? Bosnia?
I don't know.
I don't know what they're actually called.
Yeah.
Bosonians. I'm sorry if I'm butchering that. Bosnians.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I'm butchering that. But all over the place. In China, they have pyramids, and they all supposedly had these tombs, and they also have things written about how basically if you were buried there, you would either reach some kind of like enlightenment. They have them in Indonesia too with Buddha and things like that. So basically, the view is that your physical life you had your physical life in order to prepare yourself for the afterlife.
Wow.
And that these pyramids served as a portal to reunite you to the physical world.
Whoa.
Across so many, so it's really wild, you guys. And here's some of like the physicalities of it that really I think just hit home the most to me. A lot of that's like very heady. But in Giza, the pyramids were 480 feet tall, okay? Each of the heaviest of these stones, these limestones, weighed 70 tons. That is the equivalent of 70 cars in one stone. And so, of course, as stones work and pyramids work, I'm sure those are the ones that were like probably more so at the bottom.
Yeah.
But regardless, dragging a piece of stone like that through a desert
70 cars.
And 70 cars. People doing that, apparently.
Yeah.
Apparently people were dragging
All right.
dragging a stone and then potentially lifting that 480 feet.
Easy.
Yes, yeah, piece of cake.
Me and 3 other guys.
It's insane. And so how were they built? Why were they built? I think are some of the most staggering questions about the fact that there are hundreds of thousands of these across the world. There are also some other like similarities between especially the 3 in Giza and the 3 in Mexico that have the same angles with between one another as the 3 stars in Orion's belt.
Wow.
And so some of them also have angles within them that are pointing up with the shafts inside of them that point directly up to different constellations. And so it's very wild. It's interesting to think about. I recommend watching some of the History Channel on this. I believe it's season 5 on the connection between extraterrestrial beings and aliens and the construction of the pyramids. So I just think it's crazy.
Oh my gosh, it's so
I think it's so fun.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts? I just talked for so long, but
I love it.
It's a very in-depth conversation. So,
and it's like you said, it's a rabbit hole. Like there's so many pieces of evidence. Like we're not even scratching the surface in this. Like I also got in a rabbit hole of ancient Egyptian pottery, and it's not pottery that you can make on a wheel because they have certain loops on the side, and they have very specific things that wouldn't make sense for it to be like on a potter's wheel. So it's so perfect. Like machines today can't do it. It's like a one piece of paper with perfection that you just can't find. And this is ancient Egyptians doing this. And then another thing, how you're talking about just kind of like the mathematical equations that went into every single piece of stone and structure. The faces, for example, of all the statues have like their eyes, the distance between the nose and the lips. All of it is exact, an exact replica from one statue to another, to another, to another, and there are hundreds, if not thousands. So again, we ask the question, how? How are you doing perfect, like absolute perfection, and in your creation of a statue, of a huge statue, that the face symmetry is so spot on? It is mind-blowing. You're just like what is going on here? I 100% believe that they were visited by extraterrestrials. I mean, the writing is literally on the wall here. Yeah. It is quite literally on the wall of these pyramids. Yeah. And in that, like, engraved in the stone of extraterrestrials coming down, or these like large beings coming down and helping them and giving them all the codes. I think it's so fascinating, and I 100% think that they did.
I love it. Yeah. I truly am so fantasized by it, but it's one of those things that's so overwhelming and under, like, I don't want to say misunderstood. It's overwhelming and like under studied maybe, or like there's not enough, I feel like, information out there for us to ever really truly know. But the information that we do know, which actually is a decent amount, I don't think it could be anything else. Yeah. I don't think it could be anything else. Hundreds of thousands of these pyramids that all in one way or another reflect constellations, that their exact, coordinates embody like the tilt and the rotation of the sun. I mean, they're from the mathematical equations. Yeah. Either we just got really fucking dumb, or since then, or we had a lot of help. Yeah. Here's my thing, is that they all had to have the same teacher, is my moral of the story. There had to be one teacher, and I think that they made these in such a way so that when you were coming in from above, because this is another like widely accepted thing, is that the architecture of these pyramids, a lot of times, like the beauty of them or the angles of them or the understanding of them could only be viewed from above. And we didn't have planes. Yeah. We couldn't fly. And so who needed to see it from the sky? Who needed to see it from the sky for it to like make the most sense? I love it. I love it. Yes. I love this topic. I know. And if you're listening, aliens, we're good. We're the good ones. Yeah. So.
And all these taker tots, we're all the good ones.
And if you want to give us the keys to building a pyramid, we do our best.
I would be down.
I'd be down.
With a little help.
A little bit of help.
Do you want to do one more? Do you want me to do one more?
Yeah, you do one more.
Okay. So I have one more, and this one is not one that I'm like 100% behind, but I think that it's kind of hilarious. Okay. All right, so one conspiracy that I have personally heard a few people talk about, but this one is birds aren't real. Have you heard this?
Yeah, I believe it.
You do? I think
kind of.
Okay, that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at with this one. It's like my mind is open to it. I'm willing to listen to all the evidence. But, like, when I look at a bird, I'm not 100% willing to be like, oh, that's a robot. So let me get into it, okay? So this one is truly wild, okay? And this is the theory. So birds are drones, okay? Like, actual government surveillance drones. This whole idea is that during the Cold War, the U.S. government replaced real birds with mechanical ones to spy on the population. It's really giving... O'Brien's book, 1968. Is that the book?
George Orwell.
Is that what his name is?
1984.
Who the hell is O'Brien? Yes, George Orwell.
George Orwell, 1984. Big Brother.
1984. Why did I immediately go to O'Brien? But it is George Orwell, 1984. Love that for us.
Yeah.
But 100%, it's giving like there's an eye in the sky, there's a big brother, there's someone watching us.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so the key evidence is, first of all, have you ever looked at a pigeon and just thought, like, you don't really move correctly?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, pigeons for sure move really weird.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just, like, walking amongst us. Like, in big cities, they have no fear of humans. Like, I would, like, literally walk alongside a pigeon for blocks. And they're, like, chill. That's weird. Very suspicious. But the theories claim that these birds sit on power lines to charge them.
Oh my god. I have not heard this part.
To charge their batteries, and that like the classic like bird poop, I'm like quoting that, isn't actually poop, but it's a tracking device malfunction. Which that to me, I don't understand. I'm not behind that.
Tracking device malfunction.
Yeah. It's like a discharge essentially of a battery or something. So where did all the birds go? So according to the theory, there was a massive bird genocide between 1959 and 1971 where the government wiped them out to make way for all the drones. And of course, this whole theory started with satire, but the crazy part is a lot of people are really in for it.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you said, like this one is not one that I'm like the Titanic one and the ancient Egypt one, the pyramids, I'm like, yes, let's go. That's 100% real. Like I feel it in my bones. This one, I'm like, I'm listening, but I'm questioning.
I'm skeptical.
I'm listening, but I'm a little scared. Yeah. But what do you think? What are your thoughts?
God, I love this one. Okay, so birds scare the fuck out of me. I will just say that 100 without a hesitation in my mind, birds are truly, I think, the scariest animal on the planet. For a million reasons. I mean, the fact that they can fly, the fact that they have beaks, the fact that some of them can fucking talk. That is so scary to me. Mm-hmm. What do you mean? What do you mean?
Yeah.
What do you mean that this bird, and it's not just parrots, I feel like this is a widely misunderstood concept, is that just like parrots can talk, there's like 7 different variations of a bird that can speak.
Like even better.
Macaws.
Like, yes.
There's like literally 7 different species of birds that can speak and they can relay information back to you. That is so scary to me. And I feel like either that's a glitch in the matrix in itself, or it really is maybe some listening devices. Do I think that every bird is a robot? No.
Yes.
Because
Same.
what I'm wondering is like, okay, when this first started happening, how come we didn't hear about like widespread psychopaths catching birds and chopping their heads off to see if there were robots in them?
Yeah, true.
Don't you think people would have like tried to check?
Yeah. I've never seen the evidence.
I feel like people that, and also here's another thing just about conspiracy theories in general. I feel like people that have mental, that are different, like psychopaths or like it's the worst space for them to exist because those are the kind of people that are going to try to either disprove it or prove it. Mm-hmm. I feel like, because it's like that would drive, I don't know, it drives me nuts and I'm sane.
Yeah.
It's like, don't you think somebody would have like checked to see if there were like robotic like batteries in some of these birds?
Yeah.
And maybe they did, and maybe they were silenced.
We don't know.
We don't know.
Yeah.
I don't like that. Here's in conclusion. I don't like that they can talk. I don't like that they can fly and be everywhere and also be relatively undetected. Mm-hmm. And my third thing is, I don't know the last time that I saw a bird going into the ground for worms.
True.
Sorry, I literally don't know. Whenever I think of this theory, I think of when is the last time I saw a bird on the ground picking for worms, and I couldn't tell you. It's like 10 years plus. I don't know the last time I've seen a bird do that.
I actually did last spring. It was a robin.
Thank God.
It was a robin though, but like again, like
certain
it might
birds.
not be all birds, right? Like I've seen a robin, like they kind of like do their little hop and then they like dive their head in for the worm or however they do it.
Yeah.
But I remember looking out the window and being like, oh, that's sweet.
He's hungry.
That's nice. Yeah. But definitely, I am kind of on board with you. Like, what's the government, like, who's stopping the government from doing, like, 10,000 birds? Maybe we're not saying all birds.
Right.
But you can believe whatever you want to believe. You can believe all the birds, you can believe none of the birds, or a little bit in between, like us. So, yeah. This is a fun episode.
It was fun. Now I'm just going to be, like, peering out the window, like, the rest of the day, like, looking for all the birds. Yeah. That was another thing I wanted to touch on. The bird poop thing. See, like, that's where you lose me a little bit.
Yeah. Yes.
Like, I have had droppings on me, and I feel like if it was, like, battery or something like that, like, I feel like it'd burn. Or, like, it'd, you know...
It would, like, sizzle.
Yeah, like, if it was, like, a chemical from a battery, you'd think it'd, like, burn through a windshield or this or that, or...
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's weird.
But do I think the government is, like, listening to us in more ways than just our smart devices? Absolutely. Do I think that it's all birds? No. Do I think it could also be some squirrels? Absolutely. Have you seen some of these fuckers? Have you seen some of them? Oh my God. Have you ever seen a squirrel, like, running at you all, like...
Like mighty?
Oh, well, yeah, like, all puffed out. Like, its chest is all puffed out.
Oh, that's scary.
They're scary as hell, dude.
Oh,
Squirrels,
that's scary.
Squirrels look scary sometimes. So, I mean, I think it could be anything.
Yeah.
This was such a fun episode.
Conclusion, yes, that was so good. Yeah, in conclusion, just keep your mind open. I think just like the moral of the story is don't believe everything you hear first, you know? It's very valid to like trust in people, but also have your own opinions and do your own research and whatever feels right to you, like how you were saying, like you viscerally felt like, yes, there were aliens 100%, like the ancient Egyptians had a teacher. You felt that? Yeah. Just be in tune with yourself and feel that, because I totally felt that for the moon landing one too. So yeah, I think just like be open-minded and stay curious. Yeah.
And I know a lot of people, I think with conspiracy theories, like will try to confuse that with having faith. And I think that the two can be mutually exclusive. Like I think that, or they don't have to be mutually exclusive, excuse me. Like I think two things can be true at the same time.
Yes.
I think that you can believe that there was extraterrestrial intervention at some point in the human history, and also believe that, you know, Jesus was a man and was a healer and did all of these things. You can believe in two things at the same time. And I think the biggest piece of advice is to not get lost in it. I think going down rabbit holes, like I was saying earlier, it can bring up kind of a lot of like feelings of just like, I don't want to say hopelessness, but just like, oh my God, I'm never going to really know the answer to this. And it can feel really daunting. And I think as soon as things like that start coming about, maybe feelings like that start happening for you, take a little walk outside. Put
your feet in the dirt.
Yeah, take a little lap and maybe stop for the day, you know? Yeah. Maybe come back to it. Don't make it an obsession, because at the end of the day, we really probably won't know the answers to a lot of these things. And just having some good safe words for yourself as you're being curious. Just have some good safety nets to get you out of those deep thoughts. But this was super fun. Thank you for listening to us.
Let us know if you want to hear more conspiracies, because we, again, just literally did not even scratch the surface. So let us know if you're in on this as well, and if you're also a tin hat girly or whatever you want to say. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. We appreciate you so much. And we're here to just like love you guys and have so much gratitude for you for giving us a chance, giving the podcast a chance, the community a chance. Like, we are so grateful that you made it to the end of the video, or if you're listening on Spotify, thank you. We love you guys, seriously.
And give us a follow. Give us a follow on Spotify, on TikTok. Send something in to our Gmail. And we hope to stay in touch with all of you as 2025 keeps moving forward. So we love you.
Love you.
Bye.